writing some of this stuff down, so I was going to do an audio, or not an audio piece, but but like some of the things that they were, those people were talking about, made me feel really uncomfortable, and it wasn't the anarchism that I knew in the early '80s, right? It was a different way of looking at things.
Yeah, it was more liberal.
Well, it was of this academic way of thinking that this guy Peter Boghossian was talking about. So he's immersed in academia. I have not been, and even like the when I was in school, you know, the postmodern studies that were part of my art studies was still of the it was still theoretical. It wasn't applied. Okay, so he was talking about applied postmodern thought, ideology or theory, and so it became a political act to be a teacher or a professor. And
oh wow,
and so
that's really scary.
And you know, and I was, you know, and I still don't have a problem with intersectionality. However, it does come from that world of you know, postmodernist activism or postmodernism, applied postmodernism.
Right.
And although it predates that, it's still. I think it got taken and used again. It was like a theory, and then it got taken and then applied. And when you apply something like that, then you get ideology that allows people to hit you over the head with it and use it as a cudgel, as we like to say here, right? So
good point.
Yeah.
Lonely spire crawling on the floor. Lonely spire longing for love once more.
Anyway, so I'm still grappling with that whole thing. Hi.
Hey. Happy New Year.
Yeah, Happy New Year. It's the first weekend after the New Year. We took our holiday decor down yesterday.
Yeah.
So it's a little more plain in the background, no little sparkly lights.
Right. So we wanted to do things a little bit different for this first Bookmark of 2021. So welcome to Bookmark. This is the podcast for Book of Hours. Book of Hours is comprised of two artists, two creatives who are analyzing and critiquing the world around us. And it's just me and him, me and JP. And one thing that we wanted to do this time
for this particular episode
is we wanted to share with you something that we do every year, and we do it on, you know, special occasions like birthdays or holidays, or sometimes we just do it when it feels
right.
Like it needs to be done.
Right, we do this for ourselves.
Right, for ourselves.
And you know, and whenever we, you know, feel like we need to, you know,
right.
like kind of take stock of what's going on, or try to get some idea of like where we are, right, and where we want to go.
And we also, I've had people ask me to do it for them as well, and you know, I get a tip sometimes, and it's always done face to face. But unfortunately, after the national emergency, people started shying away from getting together and doing things that were, you know, in close proximity or face to face. So that's kind of you know, that hasn't happened as much as it used to.
So what we're talking about is not
what is it?
It's not what you think it is.
It's not what you think.
So for years I've had this book, and it's called the Book of Runes by Ralph Blum, and I've had this for probably close to 40 years now. What it is it's a book that this gentleman put together of an oracle system called runes, which are come from the Vikings, so they're glyphs of the Viking or Nordic people's alphabet. Okay, and these are used as a sort of oracle, sort of like the I Ching or like tarot cards, right? He used, in fact, when he was trying to come up with his system of deciphering the runes, he used I Ching as one of the touchstones or the points to like derive meaning or ways of explaining what comes up. So in this system, much like like I Ching, it's sort of a chance operation. But what you're doing is you're consulting yourself or what's going on, and we both feel that we've actually taken some readings for ourselves, but we've also done some recently for what's going on in the world, and like we feel like we're both very very intuitive, and that we pick up a lot of what's going on in the world. Julie was mentioning earlier in one of your voice casts that you're feeling you're feeling what's going on with people right now, and the sadness that's going on, or the confusion or whatever.
Yeah.
And I do too at times. And so we wanted to do this rune reading for those of you watching, as well as for the general idea of the world.
The world.
And like kind of get a benchmark for like where we are right now and where we can go. So we're going to do two readings. One, she'll do one and I'll do one, and we will interpret these and try to what am I trying to say? We will interpret these so that you can understand, or that we can give you an idea of what we're looking at right now, starting from the beginning of the year.
Right. Just very quickly. So usually what happens is people come to me and they say, I'm going through a challenging time in my life. Either somebody has died, or, I'm breaking up with someone, or I'm afraid I'm going to lose my job. And, so they come to me, and we would sit down, and I would, pull runes for them. We call it pulling runes, and I would just help them. And it's really just them getting in touch with themselves. I mean, this doesn't see the future. We're not oracles.
Right.
Well,
it's kind of an oracle where you're consulting yourself, but this is not like fortune telling.
Right, we're not. Yeah, it's not like that, and it's not anything bad. It just helps to your sense of yourself might be tangled up in a knot. You might be in a knot, and what this does is it helps to straighten out the string that's kind of holding you together, and it gives you more of an upright position, and it helps to get you to the next challenge that you might have to meet in life. So I jokingly said to him, we should pull runes for the world. And I was joking, and he was like, you know what, that's a good idea. So here we are. Pulling runes for the world.
Julie will do the first reading, and what we have here is a bag. It's a cloth bag, and it holds these stones. You want to pull a couple of them out and show them?
Yeah, so these stones are, they're
little ceramic little slabs with the Viking glyphs on them.
Right.
And each of those glyphs have a different meaning. Okay, and so we're not going. We can talk about the traditional meaning as well, but they also used as a spelling system. But
yeah.
Anyway, so
what you do is you pull three, and you put them face down, and then you turn them over. Is it counterclockwise or clockwise?
However you want.
Yeah, you turn them over.
I tend to turn them over from side to side as opposed to up or down, because depending on the position of the rune, it could be up or down, and that could change the meaning, right?
Right.
So what this is a 3-glyph spread. There's other types of spreads out there, but this is very simple. It goes from right to left, so the opposite of how we read, right to left, and the positions are you right now on the right, the middle is the problem, and the one on the left is the goal.
Right.
Okay?
Okay, right. So here we go. I'm going to do that.
Okay, and we'll get a shot of what she pulls in a moment.
Okay.
Okay. Now, when she does pull, generally, and when you pull a rune, a set of runes, you're thinking about like what you generally have a question. So like, what can I do right now, or what is it that I'm feeling right now, or whatever the case may be. It can be an open-ended question. So go on.
Okay, so I think right now the world is feeling incredibly alienated and confused, and not exactly sure who to trust and what's going to happen next.
The book generally says something like, you can ask, what do I need to know now?
Right. So look at that. Everything is reversed.
Wow.
Every
All right. We've got an injury. So the world is
Now, the world is definitely upside down.
Right. So this isn't necessarily a bad thing. It depends on the rune itself. But let's.
Right. You want me to take a screenshot of it?
Yeah. Why don't you take a screenshot and then we'll put that in.
Yeah, we'll put it in the video.
Okay. In the meantime, I'll look these up. Now, see, the system is here in the book. And what we have is, the first one is, it's hard when they're inverted. Okay, so the first one is possessions reversed.
That makes sense.
That's where we are right now. That's, who we are, where we are now. Mm-hmm. The second is joy reversed. Okay, so that's the problem.
That's also where we are right now.
Yeah.
But that is the problem.
And then the third is the self upside down.
The self upside down. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to give my own interpretation of this spread.
Okay.
And then if you want to consult the book, we can. But I think that, our viewers might appreciate what we have to say versus what sort of comes out of the book, but more about our interpretation.
Yeah, so as you're doing that, I will look these things up and then see if they're relevant. Okay.
So the first one was possessions reversed, right?
Yeah.
All right, so possessions reversed. This is a very obvious place where we all are right now, obviously. I mean, you cannot, it's not more clear than that. People are losing their jobs, they're losing their friendships, they're losing their sense of who they are. Possessions don't necessarily mean things, but possessions can also mean the thing that you possess within yourself that has always guided you throughout your life. And you could be feeling that your entire world is upside down now, and that all of the things that you believed in and put your faith in have suddenly been turned on their head. Maybe you're dealing with a court case or relationships that have turned on their head. People that you've always, your entire life, have told you your whole life that they have your back. Or a court system where you're actually the victim of something, and all of a sudden it's been turned on its head, and suddenly you're the one having to defend yourself. So right now the entire world is in a state of upside down. We are living in the upside down. If you ever watch the show Stranger Things, then you'll understand that term. Yeah. We are literally living in the upside down, and the fact that the possession rune is upside down and is in the reverse position is actually very telling, especially that it's in the first position on the spread. So that means that we are all living in the upside down, and this is very clear. There's really not a whole lot of insight that's needed for this. This is exactly where we are right now. We are all of the things that we possess, whether it's a job or our sense of self or our sense of what we always thought was true about our life and true about the people that we love and always claim to love us. All of that's been turned on its head in the state of the current national emergency or global emergency that we're told we're in. So this is a very telling rune. It's very easy. Is there anything? Well, you're going to do your own spread, so right. I'll navigate this one, and then JP's going to do another spread, and he'll provide his own interpretation of things with that. Okay. But is there anything the book says that you feel?
So it's pretty much very similar, except that it's like even if you're feeling a sense of joy right now, it's important not to fall into a mindless sense of joyousness.
Right.
And it's also putting you in touch. It says with the shadow side of possessions, so meaning that you need to understand that things will be going away, okay, but those things will come back in other forms.
Right.
So it's important to remember that. In dealing with the shadow side, you have the opportunity to recognize where your true nourishment lies, okay, And, you know, some of these other things too. I mean, he was just saying, you know, things are probably happening that are beyond your control. Okay.
Right.
Yeah. And that's basically what's going on right now.
Right.
Okay.
So let's take a look at the second spread, which is, or the second position, which is the problem. So the first one, which was possessions reversed or possessions upside down, was the first one. That's where we are now. The second one is joy upside down, and that's our challenge. That's the challenge position, or the problem position, or, you know, the thing that is that we might have to face next, or the obstruction. That's the thing that's in the second position here, and that's joy inverted. So joy upside down. You know, my feeling about joy being upside down is obviously it's an obvious message. I say the word obvious a lot in this spread because to me it's that's what it is. I mean, this is clearly depicting where we are right now. Joy upside down is, you know, obviously sadness or being upset or, you know, having a lack of joy. And there is a lack of joy in the world right now. And one of the things that I've been really, ironically, that I've been really pushing in my Twitter, in my
Your messaging.
Twitter messaging, and the one that got the most tweets of any tweet that I've ever tweeted, ironically, was about joy. I said, you know, this entire system is designed to rob you of your joy. And as we transition into transhumanism, and as our human imprint on the world is becoming more and more criminalized, joy is the thing that's going away, and joy, pure joy, is what makes you a human being. So it would make sense that in the problem position, as we continue this global struggle to, you know, to keep our humanness or our humanity intact, it would make sense that the joy position would be in reverse. Now, on the other side of that, and I have a feeling the book is going to go here as well, but on the other side of that, you have a sense of quiet contemplation when joy is inverted. Sometimes joy can be, you know, it can be a detriment to a distraction to your experience. So, which is life, you know, life is your experience as a human being. So sometimes joy can get in the way of growth. And by joy being inverted, it gives us an opportunity to look within, to settle down, to get a little more real, to get our feet planted back on the ground, accept that these are some of the realities that we have to face, as uncomfortable as they may be, and our joy may need to be put on the shelf for a minute in order for us to practically assess the situation as responsible adults, as, you know, thinking adults that don't need to live in constant joy and constant euphoria, which is, you know, kind of childish. And, you know, it's children that always want to be happy and be entertained and have candy and do all the things that make them happy. And you're not a child, though. You're an adult. So sometimes we have to put joy aside. And so that, too, is the difficulty. The reason that it's in the middle position, which is the challenge of our lives, is that we have to grow up. We have to put the joy aside for a minute. We find a lot of joy in a lot of different ways that are really unhealthy. Some people find joy in hurting other people, gossiping, attacking people online, dogpiling, always laser sharp focus on people's faults and how they're getting it wrong, you know, that kind of thing. And they find great joy in that kind of behavior. That kind of behavior does not help humanity grow. It does not help humanity dig in its heels and say, no, I'm not going to transition into a robotic person or let the robots take over. I'm going to maintain my humanity by constantly attacking people for being human. And, you know, humans are full of error. Then what you're doing is you're speeding the process up for the bad people to win, you know. So you want to not find joy in that kind of behavior. that really negative toxic behavior, where a lot of people do find joy in that, and they find a great sense of satisfaction in, you know, in the gossiping and the attacking and the undermining and, you know, and all this stuff, which I've never really been. We're not polemics over here. Like, we don't, you know, that's not how we operate. But we know that that is the way the world operates. If you've ever been to high school and been gossiped about, or been to junior high and dealt with, you know, the crowd that loves to dogpile and gossip and attack you, then you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
So that's the problem that we're in, is we need to do a lot of growing up. I think that that's what that is really saying, is that, you know, this is the challenge that we face.
And I think that there's pain in growth like that as well.
Right.
So, you know, there is, you know, growth can also create pain. You know, if you remember back to when you were an adolescent, that was not a very fun time exactly. So
no,
it's a tough time, and so we're, you know, these are changes that we're dealing with, and we're having to find ourselves grow in many ways. And Julie and I have found that challenge since we've come to for a long time actually. We've been exploring that path together for a while.
Yeah.
You know, but I think that the COVID thing really has
the national emergency.
The national emergency has brought that about as well. Now, and the other thing that came to mind with that idea is that when you were talking, the Buddhists will use the term or the phrase, you know, you have to sit with it, right? Meaning in meditation, you have to be present and you have to sit with that issue, or that, you know, you may be uncomfortable with that.
Right.
You still have to sit with it.
Right.
Okay,
So,
and be there and in order to understand it, right? It's not about pain for the sake of pain or the sake of gain necessarily. It's about understanding and realizing what might be taking place in order to find ways around that or through it, or whatever the case may be.
a lot of Americans in general, in my opinion, so I'm speaking to Americans right now. I'm not necessarily speaking to Europeans or you know, those in the East or the global South. I'm directly speaking to Americans right now. You know, your culture has been it's been all about immediate gratification, and the immediacy of joy must be at your fingertips at all times. This idea of sitting with your suffering is completely antithetical to the American existence. I mean, how dare you ask me to suffer? How dare you ask me to face my own demons, or to face, you know, this terrible situation, and really look at it and see and look within and go, how have I been responsible to this, you know, to this situation? Like, what part have I played in the continuation of others' suffering? You're going to have, so right now, the obstacle, the challenge position for joy being inverted is a huge glaring red flag. It literally says, you know, your obstacle is that you are not willing to invert your own joy in order to face those demons and that suffering that you may have caused in the world. Now, you know, I don't want to blame innocent people. That's not what I'm trying to do. But what I am saying is that in general, the general population of the American culture, you know, I'm not saying that you specifically are. I'm not talking to our audience.
Except for one person out there in there. No.
But the general idea, the general culture in America is that none of us want to feel uncomfortable. It's all about instant gratification. It's all about, you know, and it's always all about being right instead of just being right. You know, instead of just being, you know, just be with your suffering, and your joy will eventually, you know, right itself. It'll eventually, you know, straighten itself out. But you can't get there until you are willing to sit in a place of inverted joy. I don't want to say suffering, but inverted joy. So it's, you know, I think that's the problem. That's where we are now. That's a really good position.
Well, you know, it's interesting because the reading in the book, it's very much tied to what we talked about before. You know, what he was saying before was, you know, you may experience things like that are out of your control, like you miss the bus, or your car breaks down, or you have a flat tire, or whatever. There's that Buzzcock song about something goes wrong again, where like he lists all these things that went wrong in his day.
Right.
So those kinds of things, shoelace breaks.
Right.
Well, in this one, he's saying, things are slow in coming to fruition, right? Mm-hmm. So things are not happening the way you want them to. They're not coming as fast,
right,
or as easily as you might expect them to.
Okay.
And, I don't really need to go much more into that, but other than seeing that,
Well, I mean, I think that really
he says everything is a test.
Right. So I think that the fact, what you just said about things might not be coming as you expected them to,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's exactly where we are right now. A lot of people who went to the Capitol on the 6th had an expectation. Mm-hmm. The energy, the positive energy, the excitement, and the purity of it was very sweet. But it was also like it was a little too innocent. Like
mm-hmm.
I think we all knew that something really bad was going to be happening, and that they were going to use this as an excuse to make that happen. Mm-hmm. And so you saying, so. There's a disappointment there. There's a inverted joy in this position, in this challenge position, is because that is the challenge, is that you might have to face the fact that you were duped, that you were used for a bigger, more nefarious agenda, mm-hmm. and that the person that you trusted the most, who invited you out to come and celebrate, the country or whatever the call to come was about, you're probably feeling a little betrayed, maybe. So, and I'm not talking, I'm not going to make this political and say, oh, Trump tricked you. No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm talking about how you might be feeling. Some of you might be feeling like your guy betrayed you, and so your joy is inverted, and you're feeling really lost right now. And that's the challenge. That's where we are right now.
Mm-hmm. Okay, all right. So the last one in the spread is the self.
Right. So the self. So the ultimate. So with the spread, you have the first position, the second position, which is the struggle position, and then the third position is the goal or the outcome. Mm-hmm. And the fact that the goal is to have an inverted self. Is really interesting. I keep seeing transhumanism, and I don't want to celebrate that at all. That's not what I'm trying to say. All right, so what is the end goal of this entire global Great Reset? The end goal is very simple. It is it's a few things. It's population reduction, so reduce the population so there are less people to have to feed and take care of. All right, so whatever means that they're going to do to reduce the population, that's going to happen. And also to take whatever population that they do want and turn them into slaves, or something even worse than slaves. And then the third goal is to play God, and to try to turn certain members of the current population into these sort of superhuman beings, like these transhumanist, half machine and half human and half whatever individuals, which sounds really crazy, but that is the goal.
3 halves. That's even crazier.
That is the goal. That is the goal.
Right.
I mean, there are universities that are currently funding transhumanism. So what we are facing as a human race, and what we are facing as the self, I mean, it's really telling that the last rune in the spread is the rune of the self, and the self represents humanity. It represents the self with a capital S, all of us, humanity. And the fact that in the very last spread here, it's turned on its head, it's reversed, tells me that the end goal is to sort of redo the way humanity thinks about itself, redo the human race, genetically, and also to redo the human race and how it views autonomy and sovereignty of the self.
Yeah.
So this is the goal. This doesn't necessarily mean that you have to play along with that goal. If you want to keep yourself the way that it is, and you don't want it turned on its head, you don't want it reversed, then you are going to have to go back to that struggle position, in that inverted joy position, and you are going to have to do some serious self-evaluation. And within that self-evaluation, you will emerge a different person than what you were before, something better, something that is more centered around actual community, actual collective, which brings power to the people. So you may have grown up thinking, or you may have been indoctrinated into a political ideology or a political message that has been training you and really manipulating the way you live your life, and now you're going to have to emerge something completely different, which is completely foreign to you, but it is the thing that will help you hold on to yourself. And I'm talking yourself with a capital S. There's your little self, and then there's your big self. So, I mean, that's, it can get really confusing. It can get really existential. We're in crisis mode right here. We really and truly are in the crisis of our lives. The Fourth Industrial Revolution has those 3 goals in mind: to reduce the population or reduce humanity. That means reducing human beings off the planet. People will die. Okay, that's the first goal. The second goal is to change the way we think about ourselves and how we value humanity and how we value our sovereign, independent, inborn nature. Some people call it a God-given nature, but whatever it is, it's your nature to be free and independent and to be sovereign. They want to change what that means. No more freedom, no more sovereignty, only slavery for the common good. So that's the goal. That's the second goal. And then the third goal is to force a man-made evolution into the next phase of human evolution, which is men with feet of clay trying to play God. And that is an abomination. That is an abomination, but that is the third goal. So those are the 3 goals in the Great Reset. The fact that the very last rune in this spread, which is the goal, is the self upside down, is a huge message. It's a huge message to us here, talking to you, and to the whole world. You're going to have to come out of this a different person in order to keep humanity alive. You can't continue doing what you're doing. You can't continue the path that you're going. You have to let go of a lot of stuff, almost everything. Everything that shapes you, everything that has undermined your existence, all of it, whatever issues you have, whatever, you got to let it all go and remake yourself into a new person so that you can continue the human race. I'm not kidding. I mean, it sounds so crazy to actually say out loud, but that's what we have to do.
Something we've been saying for a long time is that you're going to have to start becoming allies with people who have different ideologies than you do, and we've certainly been experiencing that here. We have friends and followers who are of different political or social tendencies or leanings or ideologies than we have, people we would not have talked to 2 years ago, that we are now considering, friends and allies,
Right.
And so I think that's something that you have to look at really seriously, and put some of these things aside. That going back to the first or the second, rune where you were talking about joy and being, the childishness, we have to put those things away a little bit in order to gain some insight to move forward.
Yeah, exactly. Would you like to consult the book?
Yeah, I do, but I have I have another observation about this last rune and its position especially. So the self reversed in the gold. I think that what we're facing as well, and we covered this a little bit in our communitarianism video, but I think, we're being forced into a collective mindset that is negative, meaning, we don't have a problem with collectivism in per se. There's positive things that come out of that. There's churches, okay, and religious communities. People have been talking about the Amish a lot lately, and there's something positive. I have some issues with them, but I have issues with everybody.
Right.
Okay, but there's something positive that comes out of that experience or from that life. So collectivism in of itself is not a bad thing. But what's happening is we're being forced into a collective that we didn't choose. We're being forced into a collective that we actually are not part of. We're being dragged along with. So when they talk about the community, especially in 4IR and the Great Reset, community is not us. It's the corporations and the government and the the nonprofits and the people who have the say over what's going on with the collective, as opposed to us. We don't have a say.
Right.
And so we're being edged out of the community. And so this is telling me that the self is being erased. Okay, we're being erased as self individuals, autonomous individuals, and so we need to pay attention to that and really not go to the point of the idea that was being pushed throughout the 20th century of rugged individualism, but going back to we are individuals within a community, a social structure, because at the beginning of the 20th century and before that, people lived in more social communities. And we looked out for each other more, just in general. And I think that's an important thing to remember, that we need to go back to that, so that we don't fall into the trap of what's been going on for the last 50 to 100 years, but also don't fall into what they have planned for us next.
Right.
Okay. Oh, and so the book, it's interesting because this spread has been very consistent, and so it was saying, things. Okay, so the first one was, things may happen that you have no control over, and then the other one was something like things are slow in coming. Okay, and this one is that you are feeling blocked. Okay, so all these things I feel like have a relationship. So that's all I'll say about what the book is saying. Now, what I would also like to say is what's very interesting about this, and that we had this goal in mind to pull a rune for the world, right? Pull the spread of runes for the world. Julie never gets a consistent, this type of reading, and neither do I. I've never had a spread where every single glyph is reversed. It's very rare if it does happen. And we have pulled some of these glyphs at times, but never in this
some are
pattern.
Reversed, some are upright.
Right. So what I'm trying to say is that this is actually working.
Yeah, this is really
because this is not a reflection of Julie at all. That I because when we do these things, she doesn't get this kind of spread in general.
Right. I've never gotten an all reversal spread. Like whenever I've pulled for anybody, whether it's for him or myself or a friend, I've never gotten a fully inverted spread. So one thing I want to end with regarding the last rune, where the self is inverted and the self is upside down, is something that you talk about all the time and that we learned from Winter Oak, and it's the simplest concept. Community is made up of individuals. It's made up of individuals, and they really want to knock out this idea of individuality in this common good language. This is why they want everyone wearing a mask, because they don't want you being an individual. That's what this is really about. So communities only thrive when they're made up of individuals from different backgrounds and different viewpoints and different economic status and different cultures and different languages, and communities only thrive when they are made up of and comprised of individuals. It's absolutely necessary for the fate of mankind and for the fate of a successful community to be comprised of a few conservatives and a few liberals and a few anarchists and a few Republicans and this and that. It's absolutely necessary for the sake of humanity that that each individual is allowed a seat at the table within that community. The powers that be, the people that are orchestrating this whole thing, really want you to get away from that idea, and they're going to try to convince you that a community can only survive and go on and be strong if everybody thinks exactly the same way and everybody wears the mask obediently. That is actually the opposite.
Yeah, that's totalitarianism.
That's totalitarianism, that's authoritarianism, and within totalitarian and authoritarian communities, you've got death. Death and fascism, and death and disintegration is your only outcome. In that scenario. You have to have people that come from different backgrounds and different viewpoints. In order to continue mankind and in order to continue community. Some serious challenges with this spread. Some serious eye-opening truth here.
Yeah,
I
agree.
I mean, this is what we're facing.
Wow. Okay, so let's move on. I will now do I will put these glyphs back, and then I will pull my own. Okay, so what I do is I put them in this bag, and what again, you ask your question, like, what do I need to know now, or something, like what are we feeling now, or whatever the case may be, and you reach in. You can also put these on the tabletop and turn them over, and then pick one randomly. Generally, because it's a chance operation, you will find that the glyphs or the stones will find their way into your fingertips. It's a really weird thing, but anyway. So I'm going to focus on it for a moment. Okay, now I'm going to turn mine over. Interesting.
Yeah, that is interesting.
Okay.
We're going to take a picture of it for the video.
Okay. So this one actually has joy again, but it's upright and it's in the gold position. So let me see here.
I can help.
Yeah, you can help with that.
Why
too.
don't you talk about your spread?
Well, I want to see what they are.
Okay.
So first one is protection, but it's inverted, so it's upside down. The next one is wholeness. Okay. And then the third one, again, like I said, is joy. So wholeness is a glyph that has no reverse, but it's in the problem situation. So that's a very interesting thing. So let's see, protection. Now I get protection a lot lately, but it's usually not inverted. It's usually right here, number 10. The traditional what do you call it? Interpretation. That's the word I'm looking for. Of this rune is like horns, like an elk, or they call it like sedge grass, where it can, it's jagged and it can cut you, or like I think they also said the yew tree, right? Because it's a very strong tree and it can add protection to you around your domicile.
Defense, the elk, sedge, or eelgrass. Yeah,
or eelgrass. Okay.
Eelgrass,
yeah, there's another one that says the yew tree. But anyway, so the elk. Okay, because of the horns, right? So protection inverted. I think that what's going on here is that we are feeling vulnerable as a whole, all of us, right now. We are not feeling protected. In fact, we feel like we've been let down by the institutions that are in place, whether they're economic, political, educational, academic, maybe even like our ideologies, from a collective standpoint, that we're finding that the people that we once agreed with, who we, thought were our comrades or our allies or our whatever word you want to put in there, are no longer there, right? They're in a different camp. We have been all split apart through this Great Reset period and this post-national emergency period. And we are not feeling protected. We are feeling naked and vulnerable in the world right now. And it's a very hard time to be in that place. And I think that's basically where I'm going to go with.
Yeah. Would you like me to read a bit?
Yeah, I'd like to see that.
So be thoughtful about your health and alert not to add weight to the burdens others are carrying. So that's interesting. That statement right there is, be thoughtful about your health. Okay, so just to add a little bit, I know this is your spread, but just to add a little bit.
I want your input.
Your health, so you're being told that you're sick, you're being told that you have, that you could be a carrier.
Right.
An asymptomatic carrier.
Right. Yeah.
So be thoughtful about your own health. Don't let the words and influence of propaganda and lies convince you that you're sick. So be thoughtful about your health. That's what the book says regarding this rune in reverse. And alert not to add weight to the burdens others are carrying. So there are people who are feeling sick, and they're probably convinced that they do have a disease that's never been isolated and never proven to exist. And they're really convinced of it. So by you trying to convince them otherwise and you trying to help them, you think you're helping, you actually may be adding to their burden. They're already feeling vulnerable. They're already feeling, like this terrible thing that they don't have any symptoms of is actually living within them. They feel that, they believe it. And if you try to, mess with their head or try to convince them otherwise, you're adding to their burden. People who are overburdened are unstable. So for your own health and safety and for your own peace of mind, let them go, I think is what this is also saying. This is why the rune of protection is in reverse in the first position with JP, is because you're immediate, as a human being, full of care for your fellow man, the first thing you want to do is help people. And unfortunately, you have to turn that upside down, and you have to make a solid choice that in order to protect your own peace of mind, protect your own safety and your own life, you might have to go against that nature, because what's happening is this propaganda and this language that's coming out in the news and through the agencies that we once trusted is really hurting people, and hurt people always hurt people. Yeah. So to protect yourself, that's why it says right here, be thoughtful about your health. So you're strong, our audience is strong, they get it, they know when they're being lied to, got it. Be protective, be thoughtful about your own health. You wake up every morning, you feel good, you're like, I'm not sick, I feel good, everything's good. And don't add weight to the burdens others are already carrying. So don't let people use you. Be conscious of your position, take responsibility for yourself, and then when you do that, only you can benefit. So,
well, I think this adds to what you were saying before, and that is that, when you were saying that people find joy in attacking others, I think, and gossiping, that also adds to what we're saying, what the book is saying here. Don't add to other people's burdens that they're carrying. Excuse me. So I would say that, in order to, for your own, oftentimes people will lash out feeling like that's their means of protection. And I would say that in order to protect yourself or feeling like you're not being protected, that you're naked, that you don't lash out against others, that you find the strength within yourself to find a way to find your own protection. Right. Before you start lashing out as a false sense of protection, because lashing out is not protection, it's attack, right?
Right.
And attack isn't necessarily a protective method, right?
No,
because you will get retribution when you attack. So what you need to do is make sure that your shields are up okay, that you are in a safe place in the way you feel, but also the way that you're. And when I say shields are up, I mean I'm talking metaphorically, right? I'm not talking about going out and getting guns. I'm talking about making sure that you're grounded and that you feel safe and that you feel protected psychically, emotionally, and mentally.
Right.
Okay, so that's what I'm referring to here. So, and I think, so I'm ready to move on to the next one then. This one is
Sure.
what, wholeness? Is that correct?
Wholeness, which is,
Okay.
which is the second to the last in the rune spread. So what wholeness...
In the series.
In the series,
yeah,
I mean, in
yeah.
the whole series of 25 runes, it's number 24, which is really interesting.
So, I think that, again, this is in the problem position, okay? And so we are definitely not feeling, as we are not feeling protected, we're feeling let down. We're also not feeling ourselves. We're not feeling the wholeness that comes from a happy life or any sort of life at all.
Right.
We are feeling like things are being taken away from us.
Right.
We are feeling, and they are.
It's important to also remember that this particular rune has no inverted.
Right.
And you'll see from the picture, you can see no matter which way, whether it's upside down or right side up, it's the same symbol.
Right.
So it's the same glyph.
Right.
So.
And somebody, this symbol might trigger some people out there, and I want to assure you that this is not associated with
whatever.
with an ideology.
Come on.
But what I'm trying to say is, those people always steal symbols from other places
sure.
and other cultures.
Yeah.
So please don't be triggered by this particular glyph. So this represents wholeness, and like I said, it's in the problem position, and we are not feeling whole as a society. We are more splintered
than ever,
and this has been done deliberately.
Yeah, that's the goal. The goal is to splinter us.
Yeah. Not our goal, but the powers that be. Okay?
Sure. Yeah.
So
those who hate humanity. Right.
Right.
And they have those three goals that I mentioned earlier when I was doing my spread. What were they again? They were population reduction. They were to turn us from a sovereign self into a slave, and also transhumanism to upgrade us into sort of a Borg-like existence.
Right, exactly. Yeah, and not much of an upgrade. Okay,
Yeah.
so
So
beware of anytime your computer tells you need to do an upgrade. Beware of that.
Yeah.
So I feel like this is pretty obvious to me. It's that none of us, and again, this is a spread for the world. This is a spread not just for me, but for everybody, and we're all feeling this. We're all feeling a little emptied out,
Yeah.
and there's a good reason for it, because it's actually happening. It's being done to us, and we need to find a way to get out of that. And so, in order to do that, I think that the goal is to find joy.
Right.
Right.
Before you move on to your last rune, which is the upright position of joy, which is the goal, which is good, it is important to kind of consult the book a little bit, if you don't mind.
I don't mind.
So this this second rune here, which is called wholeness, it represents the sun. Which is interesting that he pulls it, because he was born the day before the 4th of July. He was born on July 3rd, which to me is like the ultimate sunny, it's like summertime,
But
it's, no school.
My planet is the moon.
Yeah, but his planet is the moon. So, but whatever. The fact is that he was born on July 3rd, same as Julian Assange and other people that are often looked up to in the world.
Yeah.
But anyway, that is really interesting to me, because this particular glyph or this particular rune represents the sun, and since this is in the problem position, a lot of us can't see the proverbial or anecdotal sun through the clouds, and there's a lot of spraying going on up there too, and the sun has been presented to us in a different way. I remember growing up, and the sun was, always in blue skies, and now the sun seems gray, and it doesn't seem like the kind of sun that I grew up with. I know that sounds really kind of crazy and maybe whatever, comic booky, but I've heard other people who are far more advanced in science and the atmosphere say the same thing. So, they have all of the education behind them to kind of prove that there's been a change in our environment. So we are not, the reason that this is in the difficult position is also because we're not seeing the sun. We can't see the sun through the clouds, whether they are generated clouds or natural clouds. We're having, or just fogs in our brain. We're having trouble breaking through the cloud to find the sun. We're having trouble. That's our struggle. That's why it's in the middle position. It's our struggle. The book clearly says that this glyph literally means the sun's energy. And when it's in this position, in your struggle position, then that means you're struggling to find the energy of the sun.
Struggling to find the light.
And let's look at this from a very plain, obvious perspective. I'm sorry to kind of take over. But what does lockdown mean? What does that mean? It means you're inside, away from the sun. One of the reasons you're having trouble finding the healing strength of the sun's energy, whether it's emotional or whether it's to get your vitamin D, whatever, is because of these incredibly authoritarian fascist edicts that tell us that we have to stay inside for our safety. Obviously your body is going to be craving the sun, and that is your challenge. Your challenge is that you've decided to stay inside and not go outside, and you don't have access to the sun. So, get out there and get access to the sun. I know that, and I'm having trouble, dealing with what's out there as well, seeing everybody, in a mask and in a concealed space, and it really bothers me emotionally. So I've been hiding away from those people, but I need to, I made a decision in 2021 to be more brave, to get out there and take care of myself and get in the sun and let the sun's healing energy move through me again, even if it means I have to go through seeing, a sea of people in a mask. So this is a really, really profound position for that glyph to be in.
I agree. Yeah, I agree. Anything else that you'd like to point out?
I would like to just read this little poem that the book offers.
Okay.
You who are the source of all power, whose rays illuminate the whole world, illuminate also my heart, so that it too can do your work. This is a very powerful glyph for you to pull in this position.
I agree. Especially, coming from somebody who has been doing a lot of gardening this last season, we have been struggling with the geoengineering that's been taking place and getting the right amount of sunlight. Fortunately, this last summer, this last growing season was pretty decent, but it's very challenging at times. And right now, we've been finding, that there's weather patterns that are happening at odd times, and we've been dealing with a lot of cloudiness. Now, Pittsburgh is generally known for its cloudiness, like San Francisco is, so for us, it's not that unusual, but I think for, people coming maybe who live in the area or from, who are not from this area, that sounds like it's kind of messed up. So, you decide.
Yeah.
So the last one is joy, and I think that again it's in the goal, right?
Right. It's in the end position, and look at it.
And it's light. Okay,
Yeah.
So joy and light. So it gives us the book gives us different interpretations of it. So he has a traditional, and he has other interpretations that either are from the word or the meaning of surrounding that glyph originally, or other interpretations that he's sort of derived, by other means. But so he says it's joy and light. And so what were we saying a moment ago? The sun, right? And the sun's energy.
That's the challenge.
Is the challenge, right? We're not getting it. And so the way that we get that is we have to find the light. And I said that a moment ago.
Right. Well, you've got to work through those challenges to get to the light.
Right. Yeah. And
that's the goal.
And I think that's the theme of both of these spreads that we just pulled, is that we need to sit with it, we need to work in order to find others that we agree or not agree with, but like feel like we can, work with and move forward with. They may be people from other ideologies, but we need to find ways to work together to work through these issues of anti-human initiatives, and we need to find the joy. We need to get back to that place because, as we pointed out in our Christmas video, these things are being taken away from us. Our traditions, whether they have been only around for less than 200 years, or if it's a family tradition, or if it's like whatever the case may be. Okay.
Yeah.
All the things that make us human, joy, art, music, getting together and talking, all these things have been taken away from us under the guise of a disease. And we're being told that we are sick people when we're not. Okay?
Right.
That doesn't make you feel good. When you're being told that you're a sick person and you know that you're not.
Or if you're sick, you're given a false diagnosis.
Right.
Because a lot of people have, even people we know personally have said, oh, well, I got COVID positive. Yes, well, so did a kiwi fruit, and so did a goat.
Right.
So maybe the whole industry is lying to you about what it is you were really sick with.
Yeah.
So
it's important to for us to break through that and find the joy and find the light that makes us who we are, and to ignore the darkness and the things that are being imposed on us in order to keep us down and not be who we are and supposed to be. So I think that's pretty much it on that one.
Yeah.
And we're getting towards the end of the show too.
Yeah,
Do you
we
want
did
to wrap it up?
yeah, I think
So-
that's a really good place to end. I
Yeah.
think we should just end it with what you said.
Yeah.
So that's
Okay.
good.
Well, we're switching to a bi-weekly format, so we won't be here next week, but we'll be here, and we're doing it every other week. So
Right.
we'll see you at the next time. You have any other last words?
Oh, just, if you want to become a patron and support a couple of artists, a couple of sensitive artists, it helps keep us going. Keeps, it helps.
Right.
So we'll put all of that information for you to.
And if you are a patron, you get extra content that we've been producing.
You get everything.
You get everything, but
Yeah.
Julie's been producing a new series that's fictional, and we put out little videos here and there and little things that only our patrons get. So
Right.
keep that in mind. You can become a patron for as little as $2 a month, and you will get all those things.
Right.
So please. We would really appreciate your support financially, and for $12 a year, that's a lot. So
Yeah,
it's a lot
like
for you.
7 cents a day.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
definitely cheaper than a mask.
Yeah, for
You
sure.
know?
All right, cool. Well, we will see you next time on Bookmark.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.
Book of Hours are artists here to empower and embolden your response to the constant negative sound bites that attack your news and social media feeds. In order to continue making the video essays and art you've come to enjoy, we need your support. Make a one-time donation or become a patron. Thank you.